S-I-M-A-M-S-C PhD? That's a funny name. Hello, Paul. Thanks for talking to me today.
Hi, Hilda. Thanks for having me.
What do all those fancy letters mean?
Well, I mean Bachelor of Social Science, Master of Arts, Master of Science, and Doctor of Philosophy.
You're a doctor? Oh, that's Beezer? I've had a sore foot for ages, and I'm wondering if you can have a look at it for me.
I'm sorry, Hilda, I'm not that type of doctor.
Well, what kind of doctor are you then?
Well, I'm a doctor that specialises in research and in finding out answers to particular questions, a lot like you and Potto.
Oh, that sounds Beezer.
Well, it is Beezer because recently I led a research team that studied the impact of Sesame Tree on children.
Oh, wow. Potto will be so excited when he hears this. He loves research. It's one of his favourite things in the world, next to twigs. What was your research for?
Well, the research was designed to look particularly at whether there was a measurable impact of Sesame Tree on children's attitudes and awareness. And we did two studies. We did one study which just looked at whether watching Sesame Tree in itself has an impact on children's attitudes and awareness. And the second study looked at using the outreach pack in schools and whether that had an impact above and beyond the impact that schools would generally have.
Wow, that is so clever. I think you might be even smarter than Potto.
Thank you. That's really nice of you to say, Hilda.
Oh, I said might be, Paul. Might be. So, how do you know that the research had any effect?
Well, what you've got to do is you've got to measure children's attitudes and awareness before they watch Sesame Tree or before they use the outreach pack in class, and then measure their attitudes and awareness at the end, and then look to see whether there's been a positive change or not.
Well, that sounds Beezer, but if there is a change, how do you know it's caused by Sesame Tree and not by something else?
Well, that's a very important point because we know that young children will grow and develop anyway. And of course, being in schools will have a big effect on children's attitudes and awareness. So that's why it's important to split the children into two groups, those that watch Sesame Tree or get the outreach pack, and those that carry on as normal.
Did you say you split the children in two? That doesn't sound Beezer at all. That sounds really painful.
Oh, no, I don't mean splitting them into two, literally. We mean putting them into two random groups.
Oh. Oh, that sounds much better. But why do you split them into random groups?
Well, it's very important for the research that we have two groups that are equally matched. Because if we don't, if we find an effect at the end, then we don't know whether that effect is down to Sesame Tree or down to the fact that the groups were different at the start. By randomly splitting them into two groups, that will ensure we have two equal equivalent groups.
That is so much research! Oh, it's amazing!
Well, it is amazing, and the two studies, for the first one, the study of watching Sesame Tree, we had 20 primary schools, and we randomly organised them into two groups, 10 schools that watched Sesame Tree in class for 10 weeks and 10 schools that acted as a control group. And for the other study of the outreach pack, we had 30 primary schools, and 15 of those used the outreach pack for a term, and 15 carried on as normal and acted as a control group. And that's why we call them randomised control trials.
Let me just make sure that I understand this. You want to figure out what a person's attitude is? Well, how do you do that?
Well, we have to measure a lot of different things. So for the first one, just watching Sesame Tree, that study, we measured a number of things, including children's willingness to be inclusive of others in general.
Oh.
We also measured their willingness to be inclusive of those from a different racial background. And we measured their interest in being involved in the cultural activities of their own community and also of other communities. And we finally looked at whether it increased their environmental awareness and whether watching Sesame Tree impacted upon their understanding of the need to recycle household waste. And for the second study, for the outreach pack, we measured all of those things, as well as children's recognition of emotions and their understanding and knowledge of different languages.
And what did you find out?
Well, we found a positive effect in both studies. For the first one, simply watching Sesame Tree, we found that it had a positive effect on some children's willingness to be inclusive of others in general. It had also a positive effect on some children's interest in being involved in cultural activities associated with their own community and other communities. And we also found it increased their environmental awareness and the need to recycle. For the other study, we found similar things, but with the outreach pack as well, we found out it improved children's recognition of different emotions above and beyond what would happen in class normally. And we also found that it improved their understanding and knowledge of different languages. And you can find details on both the studies in reports on the website at www.qub.ac.uk/CEE. And there's also a link to both reports from the C2K website.
Beezer! I'll get Potter to show me on the computer when I go back to the Sesame Tree. So, Paul, do you think all the research was worthwhile?
Well, personally, I think it's very important that we understand the effects of programmes like this on children. And in the present case, we've got strong evidence now that watching Sesame Tree can have a positive impact on some children's attitudes and awareness. And also that using the outreach pack in schools can add value to what teachers do already.
I'm